We're going to go to the phones here momentarily. I thought it was interesting, his impassioned, I guess, soliloquy berating Niner fans about Brock Purdy, but he's not wrong. I think a lot of times we hear, Larry, in whatever market you're in, you get so caught up on looking at what might be or what could be or what you really want instead of looking around at other teams. And you could pick any other team in the NFL, and 24 of the 32 teams don't have a quarterback situation as good as the Niners do, and it might actually be 28 of the 32. You're not envious of almost anybody in the NFL quarterback-wise.
No, I mean, and people, I just think, need to remember who Brock Purdy is. He is a second-year quarterback. I mean, if you said and you're judging him, a lot of people are judging him very harshly against guys who have been in the league for 5 years, 6 years. It's almost like judging a second grader against a fifth grader. I mean, really, he should be judged against Desmond Ridder and Matt Corral and all the donkeys that were picked
right
in his draft. Instead, it's like, well, he's not Josh Allen, he's not Mahomes, he's not this guy, he's not that guy. Let's stop talking about what this guy isn't and start to appreciate what the hell the guy really is. I mean, through 11 weeks, number one in quarterback rating, number one in QBR, number one in completion percentage, number one in touchdown percentage, number one in passing success rate, number one in yards per attempt. I mean, there's like 20 categories.
Yeah, touchdown percentage is another one. He's
passer rating under pressure, number
yards
one
per
in
attempt.
Net, number one in completion percentage under pressure, yards per attempt under pressure, number one. I mean, this guy was the last pick of the draft. This is one of the great draft picks in the history of the NFL. And you know what? If you go in the room and talk to his teammates, they're sold. You can find out the truth even though guys won't go on the record. You're not going to go into the locker room and have guys go on the record that they don't think their quarterback's good. But if you're in that room enough, you get a sense, and you can talk to guys off the mic and off camera,
right,
and get a sense of how they really feel. There is an amazing amount of respect and admiration for Brock Purdy from the coaches, from the players, and this idea that it was like Shanahan was on the verge of yanking his sheets and going with Darnold. No way.
No, he wasn't.
No, he wasn't.
We talked, Mark and I, we talked about what it would take for that to actually be a conversation, and I said 7 straight losses. If they went from 5-0 to 5-7, and Brock Purdy played like he did in those fourth quarters and made those mistakes, and he didn't really cost them the game in any of those 3 losses. Cleveland, he let them down to a spot where they could kick a field goal and win, and they didn't. Minnesota, he played his worst game of the year, I thought, and Cincinnati was a scheduled loss based on the Bengals coming off a bye and the Niners at the long end of an 8-game stretch with no bye. I thought that was going to be a loss no matter what. Mark actually lost a bet to me. We bet babysitting.
Nice.
So he's
got a babysit now?
He and the lovely Christy have got to come over, and I told him I was going to...
He wanted to babysit.
I was going to feed my baby
You
Chili.
do have a cute little baby. Yeah,
She's adorable.
Sure.
But
yeah, so he wanted to babysit.
I don't know how long it's been since you've changed diapers, but...
yeah, it's been a long time.
Yes, and I can tell you this, and we're going to go to the phones here in just 30 seconds, but indulge me.
Regular diapers, yes. Formula diapers, hell to the no.
She's not on formula. She'll never be on formula.
Okay.
She's drinking the cow's milk, but she eats big people food. And I'll tell you this, that what comes out of the human body is unchanged from what it was 20 years ago.
There's people getting ready for their Thanksgiving holiday, and you're talking about baby stool.
I haven't even Grandy always cringes when I get into this portion.
Grandy's
show.
like, I never
just tuning it out now.
I'm sorry,
I
Grandy.
never wanted Dibs on this station. I've told Matt I didn't like him.
I'll just say this. Nah, I'll move on.
Grandy's not the only one.
I know. Let's go to Vince in the city. Vince, help me pivot off of poopy diapers. You're on 95.7 The Game with Krug and Dibs. What's up, Vince?
Hey, what's up, guys? I just wanted to say that I don't really feel the same kind of lure that the Seahawks Niner games used to have. It's just not there anymore. I don't feel like there's that much of a rivalry. However, it is a big game because it's a divisional game. You know, this is either one up or one down in the standings, so it's important in that aspect. But I think it's more important to see the 49ers have another back-to-back solid win. because they did just come off of 3 straight L's. They had a decisive win last week, so I want to see that continue and kind of bring back the fear for the rest of the league. Is, you talk about Philadelphia and everybody's, oh man, that's a hard team. I felt like the Niners were not talked about in the same way as they were after the first 5 weeks going into week 9.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for another big win.
That's
I
fair,
agree.
Vince, and thank you for that.
I agree with him. I think he's spot on that.
Well, I also think that, part of that first 5 weeks was the opponents they played, and they didn't really have that much of a tough spot. Now, the Rams gave it to them pretty good, but they still found a way to get that win. But, Pittsburgh has turned out to be just okay, and their quarterback has not been very good. And, you look at the other wins. You beat Arizona, and they had Josh Dobbs, who is now a Minnesota Viking legend.
You beat, if you go down the list, you beat New York Giants, but there was no Saquon Barkley.
Right.
So that definitely hurt them. Almost every team that they played in the first part of the year was without a key.
They were compromised,
a key cog. So I think this is a big game, but the rivalry doesn't feel as juicy when you start to dominate it. And the reality is the Niners have won the last 3, and they've won by more than 2 touchdowns.
Right.
So I think that's a big part of it. If Seattle won a couple of these games, maybe we'd feel differently about the rivalry. But I do think this is going to be a major statement game for the 49ers because they know the nation's watching. They know every other team in football will be sitting there on their couch watching this game. And, right now I think the prevailing wisdom is that the Eagles are the best team in the NFC and that the Niners or Lions are number 2. But if the Niners go into Seattle and just wipe the floor with the Seahawks and really win impressively, that could change the way people look at Niners-Eagles in Week 13, which is next Sunday, a week from Sunday.
And also, if Philadelphia then goes into Buffalo and they lose that game, which they very well could, Philadelphia is running a gauntlet in their schedule, and you mentioned it, Buffalo is in a spot where it's not a must-win, but it's
pretty close.
Getting pretty late for Buffalo.
It might be a must-win, to be honest.
Well, they're 6-5, so if they fall to 6-6, and you look around the conference, and you've got Cleveland at 7-3, Pittsburgh at 6-4, Houston 6-4, and you start to think about Denver and other teams that are on the periphery. I think 11-6 is what you need to get into the AFC wildcard spot. So if Buffalo does lose to fall to 6-6, you can start to look at their last 5 games as being.
Look at that schedule. Buffalo has to have this game. They've got the Eagles, then they play the Chiefs at Arrowhead, then they play the Cowboys, then they play what will be a for sure desperate Charger team. Then they play the Patriots. That'll be an easy game. But then they play in Miami against the Dolphins, and that's not going to be an easy game. So, this is a Buffalo team that was lost to Denver at home. So it's like they lost to the Patriots. So who knows? Who knows what Buffalo's going to do? I think Buffalo's one of the most baffling teams.
Yeah,
Ken Dorsey, I thought was going to be like the next hot name to be an NFL head coach. There were people clamoring for Ken Dorsey to be the Niners' future coach, and he gets fired. He gets fired as the OC. So, it's been an ugly year for the Bills.
Yeah. Buffalo, number 4 in the league in point differential at plus 104, yet they sit at 6-5 in a big one coming up on Sunday against Philadelphia.